All right, everybody.
Welcome
with
back.
part
Welcome
two,
back.
Week 14, big playoffs and fantasy starting up. Going to finish off these matchups. So, Paul,
Yes, sir.
what's the next game?
Well, we are going to finish off the matchups and a few bonus matchups with the boys and home team.
Of course,
that
yeah.
will be at the end.
Yeah.
The first matchup that we're on here is the Battle of the Bay Sturds. Tampa Bay and Green Bay.
Down by the bay, where the quarterbacks suck.
Yeah, I mean,
they're injured all day.
Unfortunately, because of all the other shit quarterbacks, I think that they are both still top half, but not a high bar to clear.
Yeah, it was just what I could think of it in the moment. But yeah.
Basically a pick 'em. They're giving Green Bay a field goal and a half, 41.5 over under. Tampa Bay barely escaped ATL. Yeah. Big Mike dudded. Chad continues delivering for fantasy, but I don't think anything has changed in how we view this offense for fantasy at all.
For Tampa, no. I mean, it's pretty much, you know who it is. It's Big Mike, it's Rashad, and that's pretty much where the buck stops on that team, unfortunately. Cade Otton is like a fucking major desperation play, but that's it.
Nah.
Like even Godwin, unfortunately, it's just not viable. He just has such a low ceiling.
No, I mean, there's there's really nothing else to talk about with Tampa. Love fell flat on his fucking face once everybody bought in what was supposed to be a smash spot in prime time. This is what the world was waiting for, and that's always how it seems to happen, doesn't it?
When you're least expecting it.
Reed, I think, is a smash start, especially against the secondary. I don't know, like Aaron Jones kind of looks like he's probably, headed towards another very questionable tag.
Yeah.
If it's AJD by himself, is he worth throwing in there against a good defensive front? Like what are we thinking there?
I think so. I mean, he got most of the work. He had a few plays against the Giants. He was getting some targets. I think this is the time of the year where beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
If you can be a chooser, if you have that luxury, then yeah, of course, like there's better options than AJ Dillon. But any type of PPR league, he's got like he always seems to get a handful of targets, even though he's not that good at it, just the way the offense functions.
He has a decent floor. He has no ceiling. Even with getting a healthy amount of the snaps, which he has for the last 4 games, he hasn't cleared double digits yet. So if you need 8 points, he'll get you 8 points.
Sure. Yeah.
If you need 12 points, he'll get you 8 points.
Pretty much. Much.
Anything more to hop into there?
Not really. I think you're spot on with Dillon. He's he just got kind of a baseline floor that you don't really, maybe in your playoffs you have to be a big favorite to want to put him in. I think other than that, just say no. I'm guessing Christian Watson is not going to play. I think they just have to, with such a often injured player, and it seems to always be his lower half, his hamstrings especially.
Yeah.
They just need to keep giving that more and more time, I think.
The Achilles hamstring. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like they're still in the hunt, but they took a big loss to the Giants, and if they take another loss here, they might just be in shutdown territory with him. So who you thinking? It's a tight projection.
This is one of the harder games to pick because I feel like these are just like the same team that wears different colors in a lot of ways. You know what? I guess I guess I'll just take the home team just because they're the home team. I'll go with Green Bay. This one I can't honestly say definitively who I really like. I'll just take Green Bay.
I feel the exact same way. Both of these teams are, like they've had some moments. They can be good at times, but very inconsistent for different reasons. One team is very young, the other team is kind of old, but
yeah.
I'm going to take Tampa just because I like Tampa. This is really
good a reason of as any other.
I don't have like true analysis. Like I do think that we can attack Green Bay like fairly well on the offensive end, but I don't really trust our defense against them. Regardless, bro, I'm just going to pick them just on vibes. I'm not even going to try to give fucking analysis.
Who cares? Whatever. Next game.
Houston at Tennessee. 2.5. Pick them. 38 over under. Is CJ going to play? Because obviously everything for Houston hinges on that. A horrendous game for all their pass catchers, for CJ himself, the Jets completely teed off on this team. So really, like, any analysis for Houston is just that. Like, if CJ doesn't play, I ain't fucking touching anybody. If he does, Nico
might be out.
Nico might be out too.
Jesus
Christ.
Obviously, Dell's gone for the year. You're looking at Noah Brown, John Mechie, and Robert Woods.
Okay, so you know what? Fuck what I was going to say before. Let's dive into that. Because let's say by the concussion protocol miracle, CJ comes back, and those are his weapons. I mean, dude, this is it. This is the playoffs.
Concussions can be a weird thing where you might be cleared to play, but you're still a little like not right.
Bro, I wasn't right for 3 weeks. You remember?
I do remember that. It can mess you up a bit, and I don't want to play any of them. If CJ plays, I guess you can take a shot on Noah Brown just because we've seen it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But man, and then I have to check. Honestly, I don't know. I really wasn't all that researched for this.
The pass funnel.
I've been super freaking just busy with everything else, like most people, I guess. But it appears okay. So Schultz is back. Schultz is playing. That's a positive. I think Schultz can be started, even if it's Davis Mills. But I don't love even CJ Stroud this week is a little scary. I know the Tennessee matchup it's good. I mean, on paper,
he's a good player.
Yeah. I'm concerned about the way that things have been going for the Texans lately.
Burn me once, shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on me. If you have what appears to be a smash streamer, I would go with that. But if you're like me and you're not feeling great about any of your options, I think, in my personal playoff life right here, I'm going to live or die with CJ. I'm not loving what I'm seeing on the wire. If he plays, I'm going to go with him, but with much trepidation because of the weapons and because of, just the situation, unfortunately, with his health himself.
Would you play a Matt Stafford against Washington over?
Yeah, I think I would. Because I think that I can get a decent floor there.
Would you play a Jordan Love against Tampa?
That's a really interesting one. And I think I'll go with CJ there because I think that both quarterbacks are kind of in a similar situation where they have, they have a weapon down, and they're in similarly decent passing matchups. Jordan is the healthier player, but I still don't know. I don't know if Jordan is really good. He's had some flashes. I know that when CJ Stroud is healthy and he's at his best, I know he's good. So I guess maybe that's just my caveman mentality with myself.
I do worry about two things with CJ Stroud this week. Like I said earlier, concussions are a real thing. They can linger, even if you're cleared. Number two, it's difficult to be good at quarterback when your trustworthy guys are not there. Yeah, I guess he's got Noah Brown and Schultz, but I mean, it was Tank Dell and Nico that was really the ones being major producers for CJ, and they're both going to be gone. So, yeah, don't really love it. I think I'd go Jordan slightly, just because I think he's got more weapons he's more comfortable with. So it's a tough one though.
How we've fallen. 2 weeks ago, I was talking so much shit to my coworkers about how the Stroud Tank stack was going to be all up in that ass.
Yeah.
But now I'm all up in my own ass, unfortunately. On the other side of the ball, Derrick Henry, less than 50% of the snaps, 17 for 34, disgusting. But the man got 2 touchdowns. He can still do that, Andrew. He can still deliver that.
And he will absolutely be the one that's used there. So you pretty much just have to start the guy. I mean, he really hasn't had the just gargantuan runs like we've seen in the past for many years where he just somehow breaks off a 70-yard touchdown run almost every game. But he's the goal line guy by a mile, and he's still used enough that he can put it together a nice game and score. So you got to start Derrick Henry, of course.
And on the other side of that, people are probably wondering, like, okay, well, if Derrick Henry's getting less than half of the snaps, what's going on? Well, Tajay's been playing well.
Yeah, he's a good player, and he can be started as well. He's a flex guy for sure.
He did lose a fumble, but he went over 100 all-purpose yards, and really what floats his value is the pass catching.
Yeah,
he's on the field a lot. Sometimes they'll be on the field together, and he's gotten, I think he's gotten more than 5 catches in 2 straight games. So that's definitely worth a bright spot in my opinion.
And then I mean, it's D-Hop, of course, and nobody else against his former team. One of his former teams.
Yeah,
his
true.
Original former team. So maybe a little extra motivation for that. I'm not the biggest believer in all that, but it might be something.
And he's been good anyway. He's been a smash play 2 straight weeks.
So I mean, you're playing him regardless, but just to talk about that narrative a bit, and then I mean, I guess Will Levis falls into this maybe whatever, go for it, take a shot quarterbacks.
Dude, there's a lot of these guys.
He's got a high ceiling, but he also has a low floor. He
is a go for it type of player. I wouldn't do that. I think that there's enough guys out there that are in the Jared Goff 14 to 18 range, the Matt Stafford, type of situation where Matt Stafford actually does have a little bit of a ceiling because he's capable of the three touchdown game that you like.
Yeah.
He's been good. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do Will Levis, but I could understand in a desperate times calling for desperate measures type of thing.
You're hoping for a 30 burger from him. He can put that together, and he showed some running ability too. Like he'll run some guys over. He's got some Josh Allen.
He adds something with that. Is Trey Burke a bust already?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
That's really upsetting. I thought, dude, last year's rookie year, I know he wasn't great, but man, I thought he showed some flashes.
Injuries.
But
The fact of the matter is that in the NFL, injuries can make a bust, and that's what's happened to Treylon Burks. So, when you're injured, you can't develop, and when you can't develop, your upside is capped. You're not building. You're not putting good tape out. You're not developing chemistry. You're losing trust in the, as other guys. You're losing trust by way of other guys gaining trust. So yeah, injuries can make a bust, and that's what's happening to him. It's unfortunate, but it's reality.
He has less receptions this year than Derrick Henry.
Yeah. So
the non-pass catching running back, Tajay's blowing him out of the water.
There's two must plays on Tennessee, one maybe at quarterback. We already talked about Houston's side, so let's pick this game.
All right, I got Tennessee, man. I just Houston. I'm sorry because it was so promising and it was so exciting, but they're not the same team without their health. And the defense did not look great the last time out. It's kind of reverting back to kind of what we thought Houston's defense was going to be. So,
yeah, I'm in the same boat. Tennessee, to me, they've got the more health at the key for their key players. Number one,
they're at home.
They're at home. They just had a fantastic gritty comeback. I think that might have sparked them a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to take Tennessee in this one.
San Fran visits Zona. 48 over under.
Good times.
But a whole lot of that is over on the San Fran side. 13.5. Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
They do not like Zona in Vegas.
They love San Fran.
Dude, we don't have to talk about San Fran. It's late. You guys already know San Fran's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Start those players. There's going to be 4 touchdowns. Hopefully all 4 of them get distributed evenly, but personally, I hope it's all McCaffrey. Just selfishly.
Yeah, fair enough.
The more interesting discussions are on the Arizona side. So Hollywood's missing practice again. Thank you, Coach, whatever the guy's name is. I forgot his name. Gannon killed us with the decoy thing because clearly Hollywood is not healthy. Obviously, McBride was already a smash star, but without Hollywood, he's going to be fucking Mr. Necessary.
It's not a good matchup for him, but I kind of don't care.
No, he's good. He's graduated to matchup proof, in my opinion. In terms of now, could he have a bad game? For sure. But he's matchup proof in terms of starting, in my opinion.
He's getting the targets that very few tight ends get right now. So you have to start that.
Yeah, and like to me, McBride is the kind of guy that it's like, okay, let's say, for example, like we talked about somebody earlier, right? Njoku gets a ton of targets. But honestly, Njoku's been in situations where he's gotten a lot of targets and not done much with it. McBride getting targets is a good thing. He will do something with the targets. He will get open.
He's a boon for an offense for sure.
He just looks good. Other than that, the only other question I really have here is, okay, James Conner had his revenge game. He blew up on Pittsburgh. He got in the end zone twice. He did the damn thing. You know, that's one in the score column for the revenge game narrative. But is he still a trustworthy running back in this matchup, keeping in mind that besides that game, like, he really hasn't had that many double-digit fantasy point games. He's had 2, as a matter of fact. And both of them had touchdowns. So where are we at with Conner?
Well, I'd have to actually – I want to look at his stats real quick just so I know. Bear with me 1 second.
No worries. While you're doing that, I'm going to look something up myself.
once again, pretty bad podcasting here. But yeah, I mean, my thoughts about James Conner is that, he's really not. He's not getting the. I want to look what I'm looking up.
He's not getting the pass catching that we're used to him getting.
That's what I'm looking up. Whose freaking team is he on?
Kyle.
He's on Kyle. Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
So they have James Conner as like a highly projected player this week, but I don't buy that. They've got him up in the Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, C-Mac category. I'm not into that, so I'm going to scroll down further here. James Conner or Zach Moss?
I actually like Zach Moss better this week.
Agreed. James Conner against – this is a good one because it's both bad matchups. James Conner against San Fran or Ken Walker against Philly?
I actually rather have Conner in that one.
Give me the explosion potential of Ken Walker. I think he can break one off. James Conner or Chubba Wubba?
Man, Chubba's just getting so much volume right now. It's hard to bench him for Conner. That one's very close to me. I would probably go Conner, but it's so close.
James Conner, DeAndre Swift.
Who's Philly playing again?
Seattle.
Swift.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Swift really hasn't been good the last couple of weeks. His volume hasn't been great, but
no.
I guess all of this is to say we're not going to play the name game forever here and keep you all here forever, but I'm nervous about James Conner this week. Much more nervous than
it's a tough matchup in a game that the game script should be. It's NFL football.
I expect them to be upside down pretty quick.
Yeah, that's the expectation. So without him, unless for some reason they just decide to give him 10 targets, he's going to struggle.
It doesn't really seem to be like in their game plan for whatever reason. I don't know why, because I think he's good at it, and I think that they need somebody to catch passes.
Spamming McBride instead.
All right. So you think San Fran's going to cover 13.5?
This is tough because of the amount of points.
It is a ton of fucking points.
But I'm just going to say the way that San Fran gets stronger throughout a game, I think they'll end up pulling away. So, yeah, I'm going to take San Fran in this game.
I'm doing it too, man. I'm really glad you said that because 13.5, man, it's a game that normally you would just stay away from because it's a divisional game on the road. The book would tell you 13.5 is too much, but San Fran is too efficient. They're too good. They're too well coached. And Arizona is just bad and also banged up.
Let me ask you a couple questions. Is Deebo Samuel healthy?
There was nothing that I saw earlier that made me think that he was not, but what have you heard?
No. I'm just really asking for yes or no questions. I'm setting something up here.
Okay.
Is Trent Williams healthy?
Yes.
In the games they've both been healthy, they've scored no less than 28 points. They've averaged over 30 points. Do we think that, let's just say they get 30, their standard 30, does Arizona have the ability to get 17? Yes, they do. But I don't think they're going to against this defense. I think it's more of a 30 to, 16 at best. 30 to 13, 33, 13 type.
And you know what? I think that with the way Arizona plays, I think it's much more likely that we're seeing like a 38 to 23 type of game.
I can see that too.
So yeah, no, I'm with you. Just San Fran's just fucking machine. Like, dude, it is literally I'm only going to do this for a second because I know I've done this so much this year. Like, it is football porn watching them play. Like they can just do it so many ways, and it's literally exciting for me to see the same formation, the same pre-snap look, and then I'm thinking in my head, Kyle, what you got for me this time? What you got? What are we going to see? And it's something different every time. It's crazy.
You know, you're into some crazy porn then. But okay, so we're in agreement there.
I'm into Shanna Splusigans. I don't even know how to transition from that. Washington at the Rams. 6.5. They're giving the Rams at home a tasty 49 over under. Terry Mack fucking goosed. Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Amazing.
For whatever reason, Curtis Samuel seems to be the most trusted receiver there. Jahan Dotson's draft capital and perceived talent be damned. Terry Mack, I thought, would be the incumbent number one receiver. And it's looked like that sometimes throughout the season, but certainly not lately. You know, and I guess that's really it for the pass catchers for me. B-Rob missed practice again today.
Yeah.
I know that Wednesdays can often just be that rest day for practice, but with the kind of injuries he had, I don't know that he plays. So Gibby should get smash volume in his stead. Two questions here that I want to explore. Question number one. Sam Howell, he looked really bad. He looked really bad the last time that we saw him on the other side of the bye week. But from a fantasy perspective, he really seems to still always get it done. How we feeling in a do or die playoff matchup with him?
I think he's as good of a pickup as anybody else, because he can kind of bullshit his way to a good performance in fantasy. We had somebody in our league of record lost Herbert, picked up Sam Howell to start him. Obviously, that was his only quarterback. I think that was a smart pickup.
Yep.
You just look at the points, the fantasy points that he's scored, and he's more often than not given a respectable line. So, yeah, I like that. I think that well, you said you had another question, so go ahead.
No. And by the way, I also agree with you. The best quarterback pickup, because he's been consistently the best fantasy performer, an interesting decision based on the fact that week 16 is against the Jets. Interesting. The other question that I have is,
he has a bye. That certain manager has a bye this week. So
yes.
That's true.
So they get a free week to take a look at him. You know, I'm not mad at the decision because Sam Howell is the best fantasy quarterback available. But I just thought that was interesting from a game theory perspective.
Yeah.
Now, Terry Mack, coming off this goose, dude, there are some people in deep leagues, it's me, I'm people, that have a flex spot that is brutal looking them in the face. Can Terry be a squeaky wheel, sneaky play, or am I just being fucking desperate?
I don't think that's just desperate. I think you kind of showed me your situation, and I said Tajay Spears would be my pick.
Isn't this disgusting, folks, that these are the decisions?
Hey, man. Fantasy isn't always pretty. Yes, I do. I think that Terry Mack is not AJ Brown, where he feels the need to air all his grievances with his team. Stupid, idiotic, crappy team, fucking teammate shit. I hate that. But I do think behind closed doors, Terry McLaurin is like, bro, you need to throw me the ball at some point. I mean, you don't have to give me 15 targets, but dude, like 7, 8, like I need a chance to contribute on this team.
Like McLaurin is not old, right? Like I'm not crazy in thinking that he's not even like 27 yet. He's not old, right?
I mean, that doesn't even matter. I mean, Thielen gotten plenty of targets. He's 33 freaking years old. That doesn't matter. He's a good player that needs to be given a chance to perform and help his team win. The fact that
the Rams are not, the Rams are not a great defense. They're not even, I don't even think they're really even a good defense.
They're rising, but they're not like I'm scared to play anybody versus them.
Yeah.
So I think Terry Mack is worth a shot. Yeah, I don't think that you're going to get 2 bomb touchdowns, but if he gets 7, 8 targets and if he goes 6 for like 70, that's fine for a flex. And I think that he is going to be at least
the way
the opportunity to do.
My flex has been an absolute boost factory the last 3 weeks. I would love 6 for 70.
Yeah.
All right. On the Rams side, Cooper Kupp said, "Fuck your age cliff, Paul." He says, "I there is no age cliff. I walk over the cliff like Wile E. Coyote in the middle of the air."
Cooper Kupp was dealing with injuries. It seems like he's starting to come out of it.
And he's not the type of player that like I think age comes like into a big factor with him.
I mean, he's a zone killer, which typically is not dependent on athleticism. It's more of just like football IQ and having good hands,
short area quickness, all the things.
Yeah. Real quick though, I do want to say, I think on the Washington side, even if Brian Robinson plays, I think that Antonio Gibson is a sneaky play because I can see this being I can see him having a few dump offs that he is able to do something with in this game.
And Washington doesn't feature players.
No,
they don't feature like
they're like the least consolidated team in the NFL for fantasy.
Weird behavior. So obviously Cooper Kupp, of course, is back to being just the Cooper Kupp that we know and love. That's awesome. And, not at the expense of Puka anymore. Like, Puka is another guy that you got to throw in there because, I've been kind of on the fence about him, about like what he is as a fantasy receiver. And he's had low points. He hasn't really been consistent over the back half of the season from a fantasy perspective. But he's shown many times that he's capable of big games, and he's not going anywhere. I thought that Cooper Kupp coming in meant Puka going out, but they can clearly coexist, especially against this god-awful defense.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those, if you got both, play both.
Yeah. Yep. Demarcus Robinson. Yeah. 2 straight good fantasy finishes, but it was, it was 2 touchdowns, which is like the hardest thing to predict unless your name's Cortland Sutton. He's flex guys. Are you looking at that this week? What are you thinking with Robinson?
I think yes. The answer is yes. The fact is that if you go back and look at Washington's stats, really since my boy Tommy carved their asses up, that was a lot of Washington being terrible as well. I mean, just going back to that game, DeVito threw like a comeback route or a curl route or something like that to a wide open Slayton, and they just like didn't bother tackling him.
They're so bad.
The receivers are going to be running wild all day, and you just hope that Demarcus Robinson in a flex spot, if you got to play him, gets 1 or 2 plays, and it's very capable. I mean, Washington's secondary has been historically bad. They are god awful right now.
Yeah, and honestly, with a guy like DeMarcus that seems to be a little bit more of like an underneath receiver, it doesn't matter. I mean, he got freaking 10 targets last week, 5 the week before that. Even with not great like depth of target, I agree with you. You can start everybody in this game. Washington sucks. They suck real bad.
Yeah, pretty horrible.
Kyron Williams obviously smashed.
Yeah, of course you're starting him.
I got the Rams covering, bro. I just don't think Washington is good, and they used to do this fun thing early in the season where, you know, they would cover some spreads, they would look good, like Sam Howell would lead a couple comebacks, but it seems to me, which is weird because I don't think it affects the offense, but with Sweat and Young being shipped out of the building, doesn't it feel like the wind kind of got out of their sails a little bit, like just from a team vibes perspective?
They traded away 2 of their best defenders. That told the players we're giving up on the season. Everybody knows that Ron Rivera is a lame duck head coach. They already fired Jack Del Rio. They have just like completely called UPS, or isn't that their shit called like FedEx Field?
Yes, they called the FedEx trucks.
They called the FedEx truck to just mail in the entire season a while back. The offense is too mistake prone. Their defense is Swiss cheese. The Rams defense has been rising a bit. They're a gritty young defense, and their offense seems to be humming. I mean, it's LA. What do you have? I have 6.5 on here.
Yeah, they can cover a touchdown.
I gotta go with LA.
And McVay, man, dude, fuck, he's good, dude. He's just like he's not like, he doesn't run like the quote unquote system, I guess, that Shanahan runs, and he doesn't have the skill players that Shanahan has, nor the line, in my opinion. But the guy, I have to give him credit. I buried that team last year in this iteration of that team, and he's been dunking on me ever since. He finds a way to find productive players and put them in positions to win. If that's not the sign of a great fucking coach, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Dallas at Buffalo.
Fun game.
It is a fun game.
We got a 50. We got a 50, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe it?
Thank God. We had a whole lot of 40s and sub 40s. In fact, like, I want to say, I think we've only had a handful of games over that 45 mark. Literally, we have had 5 games over 45.
Yeah,
that is
brutal, man. It's been brutal.
So I'm happy. I'm happy that we have a few players that are going to be involved in this game. This is the time of year that you want to start watching for weather reports in Buffalo. It does look fine for now, but you know that is always a factor around this time of year over there. But as far as I saw, it looked dry and it looked like the wind was decent. It's just cold because it's cold as fuck.
Yeah, but you get over that real fast in pads and running around. It's fine.
So, actually looks like it's going to be fucking pretty perfect football weather. Obviously, Dallas, you can start everybody in a high over-under.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Fergie is a better play than Cooks because of positions being considered. But if you're throwing Brandon Cooks in your lineup for that blow-up potential, I don't blame you. Anything really to chat about Dallas side of the ball?
No. If you were able to get your hands on Dak a few weeks ago, congrats. That's been awesome for you. That's it. Yeah.
In one league, it's been pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, been pretty fun.
Yeah, could be the MVP. We'll see.
So on the other side, Kincaid's actually got a shoulder and a thumb. Considered day to day,
and Dawson should be back.
Yes, yeah. So Dawson's back, and I think he stole a few targets, if I'm not mistaken. But he's out there to block a lot.
Yeah.
So, watch that. But I'm definitely cool playing Kincaid if he's healthy because I love Kincaid.
I think for Buffalo, it's pretty much all the usual suspects, except how big do your balls have to be to in a playoff matchup? If you're in the playoffs, start Gabe Davis. Are you doing it?
I think that, to me, that is more of a function of how small your brain is versus how big your balls are. I understand that Gabe can have a big touchdown and can have a big game. I know that, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to open myself up. And by the way, it's funny because I know that Gabe is ping-ponging between big game goose, big game goose, big game goose. So he just goosed. So now that we've established a pattern, the process would say this is a Gabe game, but I'm not going to do that because as soon as you think you have Gabe Davis figured out, that's when he fucks you up. So I'm not riding my fantasy season on the shoulders of Gabe Davis. I would hope that I would have a more stable option. And I'll call it what it is. Like, Stephon Diggs hasn't been good. He's not been good the last 4 weeks. I think he was able to put together a decent fantasy outing against Philadelphia, but with this new coordinator coming in, I don't know that really has anything to do with it. I do think that they've prioritized getting James Cook involved in the passing game. I think James Cook is pretty fucking solidly an RB1 going forward through the playoffs, which is, good for those fantasy managers. But I don't even know if this offensive coordinator has anything to do with it. I do think that like the spamming of Diggs hasn't been happening as much as it's been happening like early in the season. But you're asking me about Gabe Davis. No, I don't have the balls to start Gabe Davis, but I'm always going to, in Diggs we trust. It hasn't been good the last couple weeks, but he's legitimately a good player on a good team with a good quarterback. I'm going to, season on the line, I'm going to trust him. I don't know where you're at with that.
Nobody should be benching Stephon Diggs. I'll say that. Gabe Davis, I think, is going to disappoint again. But the reason is because I think that the offense for the Bills is going to, in a game like this, I think they are going to heavily, heavily rely on a lot of James Cook, because I think that this new group has said, or like offensive coordinator has said, this guy needs to be involved. He's really talented. And I think that we are going to see a massive game for Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to have a 150-2 type game incoming.
I don't even want to dare to wish for that because that would be so fucking awesome.
It's time. It's time. And for as magical of a run,
his brother's on the other sideline. He's going to want to show out for him.
That's true. And while he is injured, the guy who stepped in for him, Deron Bland, has had a ton of pick sixes. He's also got his ass burnt.
He can be had.
Stephon Diggs, I think, is going to do it. I think between Old Man Gilmore and risk it for the biscuit Bland, he is going to have some massive plays.
That's good. That would be so fucking dope. Oh man.
So I'm going to just go ahead and pick it. I'm taking Buffalo in this game.
I'm taking Buffalo too. Dallas has been great. It would obviously not surprise me if Dallas wins the game because they've been awesome. But Buffalo is at home. Dallas has not traditionally been as great on the road. And I just think that in between Buffalo knowing they need the win a lot more to keep their playoff hopes alive. Josh Allen's escapability, neutralizing that pass rush just a little bit. And, I just just like the Bills. I just think
This
that
has the
I just think they figured some shit out.
This has the makings of another classic. We hope we get that, and I think Josh is ready to roll. He's going to be able to outduel another really good offense in this game. So, yeah,
hell yeah,
Buffalo it is.
I'm so pumped that and also like it's not an island game, but like with the other 4 o'clocks that are coming in around it, and what we think are going to be some smackings, it's going to feel like an island game.
Yeah, for sure.
So the real island game, Baltimore, Jacksonville. They're giving Baltimore 3.5 on the road. We finally had an awesome Lamar game last week. You thinking that continues?
Lamar, yeah, I think in this game, I think so. I think Lamar's going to have a nice game here.
With Jacksonville, so Trevor Lawrence still has that bulky ankle, but he actually looked fine. I guess we should see a consolidation of targets for Calvin Ridley, but I mean, in terms of production against a good defense, like what's kind of your expectation for the usual fantasy suspects with Jacksonville?
I mean, I think that it's pretty much you're starting. I would start Ridley with Christian Kirk being out. I think that the Baltimore defense gets a little overrated based off of just like stats, but like they can be. They're not like a lockdown defense. Like they really are susceptible, and I think that Jacksonville.
They make splash plays. They've made splash plays.
They have, yeah. They've made a lot of splash plays. They've had some defensive, like juggernaut-looking games, but I think that Jacksonville is just overall a solid offense. So, yeah, I'm starting. I'm going to start Ridley. I'm going to start ETN. I'm going to start Evan Ingram because Evan Ingram's really heated up. Scored a few touchdowns now, finally.
Damn. Lawrence yoked 50 passes last week. I didn't even see that. That's wild. That's the kind of volume that we were hoping to see from him in his like 29 to 30 passes a week. But ever since Lawrence, that we kind of were talking about burying him as a fantasy asset, he's been really good.
Yeah, he's turned it around. The offense is
4 weeks.
Well, and what we said with that was the regression to the mean of all these ETN touchdowns should turn, and it has.
No, and he's been better. He has been better in that time. So, okay. We're not viewing necessarily Baltimore, the matchup, as a reason not to start Trevor Lawrence. On the other side, which I didn't really spend a lot of time there because I just kind of like went with the fact that Lamar had a good game, held up some of his receivers. Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards like nerfed each other in that backfield. And we basically had literally pretty much like an even split between Lamar carrying, Gus carrying, Keaton carrying, although Keaton was good carrying the ball and Gus was not. All that being said, I think what people are mostly looking at in the Baltimore area is the pass catchers. So we had an Isaiah Likely game. He got a tud. Cool. Zay Flowers got that huge go-ahead touchdown and the 2-point conversion, but he was looking kind of sus prior to that. And we had an Odell game.
Yeah.
Who we starting, who we fading among that group?
I mean, I'd probably be looking at, it's crazy to say, but like Odell seems to be the most trusted and consistent. I think Zay is like a gadget guy until the panic button gets hit, and then they're like, all right, let's just start going deep.
Why though? He's so good.
I don't know. I'm not Todd Monken, but yeah, I think we can. It's likely that we see Isaiah take a step back in this game. I don't think it's going to be another Isaiah Likely game. Lamar raised everybody up last week. I think that Lamar will have another good game, but I don't think he's going to be quite as productive and put up as big of numbers, which means you got to pick, you got to pick who's going to hopefully score the touchdowns. And, I think, I don't know. I think Odell's kind of been the most trusted one because he's healthy right now.
Yeah. Since Odell seems to have been quote unquote healthy, I don't know though, because I'm looking here from just a production standpoint and a snap percentage standpoint. He does get volume. Like when it comes to him being on the field, Lamar loves looking at him.
Yeah.
On less than 50% snaps, we got 7 targets, 5 targets. This most recent game, 10 targets. Inefficient. But he's getting the kind of, I guess when I just looked at the ages of the players and what I assumed coming into this season, it felt like Odell would be the possession guy and Zay would be the down the field guy. But when I'm sitting here looking between the two of them at their average catch yardage and all that stuff, well, the numbers don't support that. So I guess you're right. Odell is getting the high value down the field targets, even though I think that's kind of weird based on their profiles. But that is the reality of the situation that we're living in.
Yep. Preconceived notions can slap us in the face sometimes, man. So, yeah, I mean, in this game,
who we got?
Man, this is a tough one for me as well. I feel like Jacksonville is getting I've got 3.5 on here.
Mm-hmm.
For the home bump a bit, I'm going to go with Baltimore in this game.
Yeah, it's tough. I do like Jacksonville. I do. They're a good team overall.
They are. It's not saying a team's going to lose is not disrespect.
Yeah,
you just pick.
Baltimore's healthier, and I think they are a slightly better team. I'll ride with you on that. I got Baltimore.
All right.
And that is where my official notes end.
Sweet.
Everything
good.
from here on out is just going to be fantasy fucking vibes.
Well, we got 2 more games. We got the back-to-back, or not back-to-back, but the dual screen football that NFL is doing.
No, actually, they don't have that this week. I don't think they.
Oh, they don't. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong.
Philly and Seattle.
I'm looking at the wrong dates. My bad. My blunder.
Yep. That's it. We just got a battle of the birds here. Philly traveling across the country after a disappointing victory, which, just for those of you at home, Andrew, you got my ass on that. We tied again, another week of tying 2-2. But you were right about Philly. They're giving them 4 on the road with a 48.5 over under, the healthy game that we like to see. Right now, I'm not sure if Geno's playing, but I think that based on them giving him a projection, it looks like he could.
Yeah, if he wasn't playing, it would be more than 4 points.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for him to play.
Yeah, he's going to be out there.
Which that does kind of makes a difference in how we view the game, because I don't think Drew Lock is it. As much as we've given Geno shit, he does give them a better chance to win. So we'll get the easy conversations out of the way. Obviously, Hurts, Vonta, AJ Brown. Swift was a fucking dud last week, but I think that just had to do with game script and just the nature of Philly just not running with their running back as much. Is this a Goddard game for you? How you feeling about Goddard?
I'm gonna just revert to the same shit that we said before the season even started. He's the sexiest touchdown dependent guy you know. Like, no, I don't. He's a tight end, so you can throw him in the same way you can throw in Hunter Henry, the same way you can throw in Cade Otton. Like, he's just a sexier name of touchdown dependent tight ends. Like, that's it.
I'm with you on that. There's too many mouths to feed in an offense that's not clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough assessment, honestly. Yeah.
Anything else to chat about? I'm fine with Swift this week. I know it was a trash game, but he's DeAndre Swift. They're the Eagles, and they're favored.
I mean, Swift is the guy who can pop off for big plays, and I think that Seattle is susceptible to it. So yeah, it's really the Seattle side that has its question marks. Like,
yes, it does.
DK is in. I think you said Ken Walker.
Yeah, and I'm always going to start Ken Walker because I think good players can make good plays.
I honestly think that Ken Walker's a average player that's overrated. That's kind of my thing. Like, you hear me all the time kind of doubt him because I doubt him as a player. I think he is
Why is that?
I think that
I have heard that
he's a home run hitter that doesn't always hit a home run. Like, I just don't love those players. I mean, if you look at his carries, it's like he gets stuffed a ton and he makes his money off one or two plays, which can certainly not matter at the end of the day. Like, home run hits are freaking valuable. I just don't trust that type of player. I think that he has a really good chance of freaking dudding for like 3.5 points in this matchup.
I don't think his O-line does him a lot of favors. But
no, it doesn't.
But
he'd be an animal in Detroit. I realize that. He's not in Detroit.
What you're saying is true. Obviously, like it's what you see with your eyes. Like, yes, a lot of his runs go for 1 and 2 yards, and sometimes he gets hit in the backfield. But to me, the few and far between home runs are a product of talent. I think
he's not talented. I just think he's overrated.
Opportunity.
I think he's overrated. I think that
as a running back or as a fantasy prospect.
I think the fantasy community just like has a love affair with him, and I'm not part of that.
Are you more of a Charbonnet guy, or you just anti-walk all the way?
No, neither. I mean, I'm not anti-Walker. I just think he's overrated. He gets talked about all the time like he's something special, and I just disagree. And I think Charbonnet is kind of like I've compared him to James Conner, but James Conner, yeah, you know what? He needs volume to produce. Charbonnet's not getting the volume with Ken Walker there, so I don't really like either of them in this game.
I'm 100% fine throwing Ken Walker out there because I think that you're right. A lot of his runs are going to go for not a lot of yardage, especially in this game, because I think Philly's going to live in their backfield and set up a white picket fence. But I'm confident he'll get one. He'll get one good one. Philly has been wonderful for pass catchers. I've tried to be kind of a Philly secondary apologist in past weeks, but that take is becoming harder and harder to justify as weeks go on.
I think JSN's a good flex in this game.
I think so too, man. I really do. Like, Seattle's going to have to do something to beat Philly, and running up the middle is probably not the answer. So it can't all be DK. So yeah, I mean, give me a talented player that's in a solid position. I don't know that I have the balls to plant my flag on him being a great flex start, or he would already be in my flex. But yeah, no, I think if you're hurting at flex, I think he's as good of a chance as any.
For sure, yeah. So I think I'm gonna you ready to pick it?
Yep.
It's interesting to me that it's only 4 points for a team that's been losing. And yes, Philly has lost a few games, but they lost to San Fran and Dallas.
Right. That's I'm also thinking the same thing. I mean, I think Seattle's getting a little bit of a home bump too, but
yeah, they are. I mean,
I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah, I mean, Geno Smith in prime time, like, always been bad, except the Giants, but that was really the Giants sucking and their defense going off. Actually, he got hurt in that game, didn't he?
Yes, the public, the football community is too much of prisoners of the moment. We're being prisoners of the moment.
For sure. So anyways, I got
Philly didn't stop being Philly.
Yeah, I got Philly.
They're still a great team that just played other great teams and didn't look great.
Yeah.
It happens.
And A.J. Brown's going to have a huge game because he's a freaking crybaby. And he's going to – but he's going to get his grease.
You don't have the Italian background anymore, but mangia. He's going to eat.
Yeah, he is.
He's going to eat plenty of targets in this game.
I'm so sick of it, man. I can't stand these freaking crybabies. It's just –
well, you know, to me, like I'm stealing this take from someone, and I apologize. I don't really remember who threw it out there on Twitter. But I think that there is. You're familiar with the hot crazy matrix with women.
Oh yeah, of course. Great video.
I think that and you're familiar with that video. That's to me the same thing as wide receivers. I think that all the great wide receivers do have a little diva in them. So you kind of have to take that good with the bad. That like you don't get to be that great at receiver without imagining in your mind that you are going to smash with targets and you need more targets because you're the best player to get those targets. Now, where it goes too far and where I think you might have a problem with it is when that becomes a detriment to the team, when it becomes it's all about me.
Yes, that's what I don't like. I've said it on this podcast before. Tell me, I'll quiz you, and it's all right that you're wrong. If you're wrong, not that you're wrong. If you're wrong, do you remember who my favorite non-giant wide receiver is of all time?
Your favorite non-giant wide receiver. Okay. I'm going to need a hint of division.
NFC South, most of his career.
South, most of his Julio?
No. He's a shorter guy. He was on the Panthers for a while.
Oh, Smith.
Steve Smith Sr.
One of my favorites as well.
One of the most arrogant guys. Had a lot to say. Always put the team first.
Yeah. That's where people fucked
AJ
up.
Brown, it's all about me. I'm tired of this shit. Blah, blah. Dude, you're on a fucking great franchise on a winning team. Like you're gonna be in the playoffs. You're gonna win you might not win the division. Dallas might win, but still, come on.
I will say this: you get some of those. You get some of those like wah moments sometimes from Diggs too. Usually not after wins. That's usually like the part where like I will give them a little bit of credence. Like, dude, if your team just got an awesome win against the division rival, who fucking cares if you only caught 4 balls, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I will say there have been times where I've seen receivers come up to quarterbacks and be like, "Yo, we're down 2 scores. Like, oh, bro, let's go." Like
that
me,
is completely understandable.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me because you want to win the game. It's the crying to the media and
Yeah.
like putting shit out on socials. It's so lame. It's just so like, woe is me. Shut the fuck up, man. I don't know.
Zoomer energy, Zoomer behavior.
Not a fan. Not a fan. Like I've said it too. I'm not really a big fan of either Diggs brother as a person. But like
I'm always Diggs is always going to have a special place in my heart for fantasy football purposes.
Sure,
He
and
does
that's
have
fine.
some diva in him, but to me, I think he's more on the positive side of diva than on the negative side.
Not as bad as some other guys. That's true.
Despite the your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving discourse around wide receiver diva energy, we did have a little something special for the home team boys that are still here listening to us. We are going to preview the upcoming playoff matchups, and that's going to include not just the actual playoffs for the belt, but also the playoffs for the dreaded sack.
Yeah.
Andrew, where did you want to start?
Well, let's start with the 2 teams that are playing for in the winners bracket. Or the two matchups, I should say.
So we have myself and Kashek, and then we also have Tyler and Bobo in the other side of the bracket. Dealer's choice on who you want to start with there, but I want to give them a little preview here.
Yeah, so we'll start. I'll start with you and Kaysen. Start with that matchup.
All right.
Do you want to do any analysis first?
Yeah, I'll start with the analysis. Bro, what the fuck you think I've been thinking about the last 72 hours? I have every player and every possible scenario fully memorized in my mind. This is it's bittersweet. Love the man, but not this week. It's a throw out the record books type of matchup. Kaysen, we talked about it, has had injuries to his lineup all the way up and down his lineup. So from a season-long perspective, some of these names I think are not as sexy, but I also think that they're very effective plays all the way up and down his roster. Zeke is in a smash spot with volume. James Cook has had problems with getting volume all year, except for the last 3 weeks, where he's an absolute RB1 play. Amon-Ra, I know it wasn't great last week, is always going to be Amon-Ra, though. Big Mike, another big bounce back candidate from a tough week. I don't really know what he's going to do with his flex spots. I'm not even sure if he knows what he's going to do with his flex spots, but we got Jerome
We'll just go with based what he has right now.
Yeah, we got Jerome Ford and Nico Collins in there right now, obviously in great matchups. Or what? Well, you know what? Chicago has not been.
Yeah, they're not as good as it looks. Yeah.
But another player that's going to get plenty of volume. And the 49ers playing Arizona, that should be an absolute butt slapping. And Lamar, Lamar is as good of a quarterback play as you can get. Obviously, you may not always get a great game, but I can tell you that from somebody who is looking across the matchup from him, you can never not have a tight butthole playing Lamar.
Burger is always on the table for him.
It is always on the table. So yeah, plenty of upside still in a team that has had injuries. So, appropriately, I think that just like any playoff matchup, it's going to be tight and it's going to come down to a few big moments. I hate sitting here and cockstroking my own team. That feels weird to me. So why don't you kind of give me your review of what you think of my roster and my chances here?
Yeah, so you've had a solid roster this whole season. I think that a lot of your players, you've pretty much avoided a lot of the key injuries. You've had some letdowns on your
Knocking
team.
all the wood.
Yeah, you've had some letdowns, some disappointing performers like Higgins with all the injuries and the injuries to Burrow and himself. Marquise Brown has been pretty much unstartable lately, but who cares about that? Your starting lineup, Josh Allen is pretty much, we already know he's a stud. Henry, I think he's got a really good spot here. I think he's going to have a nice game. Sure, the 30 burger is probably not going to happen, but I think he has a very good. I do not see you leaving that game without.
Yeah, he's not the potential for like the 30 bomb, 40 bomb anymore because he just doesn't get all the work. But
exactly.
He could be in a good spot for a nice little 20 bomb.
He could get you, and which is awesome. Rachaad White has been so good. He's getting a ton of volume, ton of passes thrown his way. I already said I think Diggs is going to have a huge game. I think DJ Moore, he has to be involved, and he's been so good with Fields. So yeah, matchup there with Cleveland's not amazing, but
DJ Moore did just pick up a random DNP from his ankle injury that he sustained.
He'll be fine. Rashee Rice has been coming on pretty good. He's the only trustworthy receiver there. And Kelsey, well, wide receiver. Kelsey, obviously, he's been average, but for a flex guy to have the consistency there from Kelsey at a flex spot, really good. Harrison Butker, so like 3 Chiefs in a game that they're not going to score a ton, but if anybody's going to score, it's those 3 guys. And the Ravens defense you've got in there, I don't really love it because I do think that Jacksonville's capable of putting up quite a fight.
I will say that last spot, it's a fluid situation. I will leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to rate what we've got in the starting lineup right now. I think that between your guys' rosters, you have the potential for higher upside. And I think that Kaysen has a lot of consistent guys that are going to be involved. I think he's going to lack the stopping power that your team ultimately has, and I think will deliver this week. So I do have you winning this matchup.
I appreciate that. Certainly do fucking hope it happens. I'm
not saying it because I'm your friend. I'm his friend too. But
trust me, I know you'll tell us straight. With this matchup, for me, it's going to come down to. I agree. I think my team has demonstrated good ceiling. However, I think that what this matchup could come down to is if my team does not realize its ceiling, I think Kaysen's team has a very safe floor and will achieve the 100 to 115 type of range. And so it's a spot where, if we put this into real football terms, if he can muck it up and keep the game close down the stretch, don't think I can't get got. I can get got.
Yeah, you can. It's fantasy. Anybody can. I think his team's X factor is Nico Collins. If he plays, it's a good matchup, and he's the most trusted receiver. That's if assuming it's Stroud.
That is my big thing. Like, yes, overall, I would say my team has demonstrated more upside throughout the season, but the Big Mike and Nico Collins games are going to be very scary because they are the only receivers that get looked at, and you get a multi-touchdown game, it's going to flip the matchup. So, yeah, I'm in agreement with that assessment.
All right, so moving on to Tyler and Bobby.
Tyler and Bobby.
Tyler and Bobby.
Two teams with some recent injuries, but still with some pretty solid teams overall. So I guess the way we've been doing it, we have not talked about this at all, but I kind of like it. Maybe we each take a team and kind of talk through what we think.
All right.
So I'll start, and I'll just grab Tyler's team. Just to start off. Ja'Marr Chase, obviously, he's always going to be slightly nerfed. With homeboy Browning behind center, but he's Ja'Marr fucking Chase. Anything can happen with him, and you have to start him for that blow potential. We talked about it. I think AJ Brown's in a smash spot. George Kittle in a non-tight end league is always a little bit like that kind of caps a little bit of upside for me, but he's George Kittle. It's Arizona. It's San Fran. You always kind of want a piece, and I understand the kind of game theory it seems like Tyler's having, where he's got that potential stack with Purdy. With the quarterback landscape, Purdy's a fucking machine, dude. Like, I'm done looking at Brock Purdy as, oh yeah, like he's cool. He's kind of like the old school Matt Stafford start, but I mean, he's a threat for multi touchdowns any given week. Josh Jacobs, I think a lot of what Tyler's got going on is going to ride on that, the health of that running back. So we'll kind of see how that plays out actually tomorrow. DeAndre Swift, upside doesn't really exist with him. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to get you. He's not a guy that's going to get you 30 points, but he's a guy that should get you double-digit points in a good matchup. Mikey P, animal. Like he literally, ever since freaking Gardner Minshew has taken over, Michael Pittman has actually not been at least a wide receiver 2, literally 0 times, and more often than not, he's been a wide receiver 1. And then you have McPherson, the kicker, Black. And then the Raiders versus Chargers, which I think is fine. That's a fine defensive start. Yeah, I mean, I think this team does not have the type of fear factor that it had in the middle of the season, but is still very formidable.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, a lot of big names, a lot of high upside guys on his team. I think the AJ Brown is gonna have a big week. So,
how's Bobo's team looking?
So yeah, the all Florida team over here.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence.
God, it really is.
I'm just gonna say, like, he's not gonna win the championship because it's just gonna take one bad Jax game for him to be done. He's got Trevor Lawrence, Etienne, and Calvin Ridley on his team. He needs those guys to all like give him a baseline. But I will say he's got
the ultimate boom bust.
He's got some high points guys on his team though, like that are consistent. He's got Mostert, who's got like 18 touchdowns total on the year. It's like
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Crazy amount.
The number two running back on the year, aged 31.
Yeah, exactly. And drafted
Olave and Justin Jefferson, who are always good for some. Justin Jefferson.
This is
from Splash Game.
Let me say mine. I wanted to look up real quick. Mostert was a 15th round pick. He is probably the fantasy MVP, the best value that
No
has been,
question.
like, amazing. Ayuk obviously always a threat to score big touchdowns, which, would cut into Purdy's production and not cut it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bobby gets the better end of a touchdown in that scenario.
Yeah.
Olave, okay, had his, I don't know,
Early season struggles.
he's had a little struggle early on, but he's been very consistent. He needs some big games. He's got a very sexy wide receiver core. Ayuk, Olave, Jefferson, Ridley. He needs a couple of those guys to pop off. Jefferson looks like he's going to play. Needs to actually play a full game. And I think this could be a close one for sure. He's got A-Chain on his bench, which I was like, I'll reserve my thoughts on that. But, like, he's got a sexy team. This is a close one for me. I don't know, man. This one is close. I think Tyler's going to edge him out.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be close, but I think Tyler's going to ultimately edge him out.
I think what you said is really an encapsulation of Bobby's whole season. He doesn't seem like he's going to have a chance to win the championship because his team has been so up and down, boom and bust, right? Like, you have to win 3 straight games against, in theory, the best teams in the league. So I agree with you, but I think he booms this week. I think he takes Tyler. I think this ends up being a Bobby spot, a Jack spot, because that's really what his team has often come down to, is that when the Jack stacks hits, usually it's a good time for his team. So I've got Bobby to take the slight upset here. And then, whatever happens in the following rounds happens in the following rounds. And I think that, overall his season has been a 0 RB mission accomplished. Because he hit on those ridiculous late round running backs.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think I got Bobby here. I don't know. I just feel like this is going to be a good spot for him. Yeah. Now, moving into the butthole bracket.
Let's save me for last.
All right. We got we got the Senpai. We got Jer Bear going up against America's team. The Dak and CD stack that Mr. Chris wishes he had all season long. So let's see. Do you want to look over Jer's team, or you want to grab up Chris's team?
I'll start with Jeremy's team. So starting at the top, he's got Jalen Hurts, been riding Jalen Hurts all year.
As consistent as they come.
Yeah, this doesn't really matter in terms of this matchup because it's just in a vacuum. But Jeremy had a 7-game slide?
Oh my God.
Yeah. A 7-game slide.
We talked about that in the season review. Brutal.
Yeah, to fall out of the playoffs and all the way down to 9th. My God.
Literally he went from the bye week to the butthole.
Yeah, and basically his season changed when he got that massive veto. So you did it, Paul. You ruined someone's life.
I really didn't mean to do it like that. It was not intentional, but
y'all are not friends anymore. But
yeah, basically.
Jalen Hurts finally had a crappy game last week. That's not going to happen again. I even beat him last week because of Jalen Hurts playing like crap. But Jalen Hurts going to bounce back, have a nice game against Seattle on Monday night. Barkley going to run.
It's been great.
Barkley's going to run the show. He's going to have to be the offense, most of the offense. Brees just, he's got to be involved in the passing game with the way that offense is. Waddle I traded Waddle to him for Jaylen Warren, which, it's kind of been a wash, I think. But, God, the matchup sucks for Waddle here. Devonta Smith has been second fiddle, of course. I think Zach Moss is going to have a nice game, actually. Addison's scary.
Yeah, the three wide receiver twos is tough.
As good as the Jets defense is, their offense can put them in a bad spot. But they've been 3 weeks double digits. You can't ask for much more than that. He's got Ken Walker on his bench. He's got Deontay Johnson on his bench, so we won't go there. But you can see why his team went on a 7-game slide, because he has a lot of good names, but a lot of very inconsistent and very how do you say it, like
underperforming,
dud prone players on his team that have really just nuked his output weekly. So yeah, that's my analysis for Jeremy's starting lineup as it stands.
Well, I guess we'll hold off on predictions then. I'll kind of go over Chris's team. We talked about Chris's season that was, an unmitigated disaster to start out with. But then, he went on a little run, spoiled a couple people, had some fun. But here he is in the trash bowl. The Dak CD stack, always dangerous, particularly in what we hope and predict will be a shootout in Buffalo.
Yeah. High over under game.
Aaron Jones, I think, actually does come back this week. So that gives him a little potential, a little pop there. Javonte has definitely been usable for fantasy. Although, without a touchdown, he hasn't had a lot of ceiling games. G. Willie actually was great last week. But again, it's that Jets offense. We'll see. And right now he's riding with Tyler Lockett and Amari Cooper. I see some players on his bench, but we can't really estimate what we don't see.
Project to start who he's going to start.
Young Ho-Koo is basically,
Young Ho.
He's a Young Ho. And then the Broncos defense against Detroit, interesting choice. Probably not what I would go with.
I think he's going to switch that. I think he's going to switch that, to be honest.
I think so too. And I'm actually going to assume that as I go through this matchup. I think the slide stops here. I think Jeremy gets his ass.
Yeah, when I'm looking at this, I gotta his late season charge was pretty much purely on the back of Dak and CD.
Yeah.
I think that they're gonna have a good game, but I think not combining for 50 plus points. And
which if they do, that changes everything. But
the rest of his team just has so many question marks and so many dud-worthy starts. I think Jeremy's going to have a little bit more of a high floor that's going to be enough for him to pull out this win. So yeah, you're just due. You've lost 7 straight. You're just due for a freaking win.
I know, Jesus Christ! But you know what? I'm telling you what I think, but from just a funniness perspective, I don't believe our dear senpai, our teacher, has ever earned the illustrious sack of destiny.
He's missing out, man. He's missing out.
It would be fucking. I'm switching my thing. I want Chris to win. I got Chris.
Cool. You got Chris. I got Jeremy.
Sometimes I just have to go off hope.
You talk about my shitty ass team.
Yeah. So do you want me to start there?
Yeah, you go for it.
All right. we have discussed the busted tank all year long. We have dunked on this team in every way possible. It's not necessary to do that now. But the team as it currently stands, we got a lot of good matchups. I think it is one positive that can be said about it. Stafford against Washington seems like he's in a total smash spot. Jaylen Warren should have some opportunities against Indy. Bijan Robinson. I mean, if this isn't a Bijan game, I don't know what the fuck is a Bijan game. I guess, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I do like Zay this week. We talked about Terry. It's gonna feel weird throwing him in after the last thing we saw from him was poor production for 3 straight weeks and then a goose. But I actually do think this could be a good Terry spot. Chuba in the volume, you can always raid with there. Trey McBride, Mr. Necessary. And this team is just not very good. There's a reason why.
Yeah,
it's 3 wins on the season.
I would feel fine saying it sucks.
Yeah, it's not great, but hey, that's why we're in the Sack Bowl.
It sucks.
You don't have to outrun the bear, Andrew. You just have to outrun the hairy Juancho.
Like fat dude in the back, yeah.
You just have to outrun Juan. That's it.
Yeah.
So tell me about his team.
So Juan has had a team of like he's got like awesome names, and it's crazy because before the season started.
You mean the number 5 overall player on the year, Tyreek Hill, who has consistently dropped 25 plus points?
Yeah, and he's not in the playoffs. That's just crazy. So like before the season started, and his 2 keepers were Tyreek Hill, which obviously has been amazing, and then Tony Pollard, who has not been as amazing. He's been a little bit better lately, but he, started off kind of rough. Yeah, I think he had the first game he was good. They had 21 points versus the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, with Reek and Pollard coming in, he was a dark horse. He was a threat.
It was like, oh man, he's going to be able to build this team really nice around those 2 pieces. Which, yeah, Eckler ended up having a lot of turmoil throughout his season, but I think this is a good spot for Eckler. The offense as a whole might hold him back a bit, but he's going to get volume. They need him to win this game. Stroud obviously needs to play, or else he actually doesn't have another quarterback on his team right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he has to pick anybody up, but we'll just assume Stroud plays. Okay, that's a pretty good start. Tyreek is always a start. Bad matchup, but it's Tyreek Hill. It doesn't matter. Hopkins, who I traded to him early in the season against his original team, he's been good lately. He's got Najee in, who is fine. He just needs to score a touchdown.
That was the best move Juan made this season, was getting Hopkins, because he's already in trouble, but he'd be in even bigger trouble.
Yeah, he would be. Jaden Reed has been involved a ton recently and just put up in the last few games, like he's been double digits except for the one game against the Chiefs. So he's been really good. Huh?
Najee sucks.
Yeah, Najee sucks. He's got Justin Tucker, always startable. And then whatever, it's kicker. And the Bucs defense against Green Bay at Green Bay. You never know. It's a defense. So yeah, I mean, his team is better than my team. Obviously, my team sucks. They're the worst team in the league. I just feel like I'm gonna have a couple.
You said it at the top of part 1. You had a feeling.
I have a feeling that my team is gonna do just enough, and I'm just gonna get lucky. I'm gonna beat him by a handful of points when it all is said and done.
You need to do something. Your team needs some juice. You need some good vibes. And just like your Giants that are dogs in every matchup they've been in 3 straight games. You need to pick up Tommy D for the vibes.
I've actually
for the
considered
vibes
it.
and the team name.
I've considered it. It's possible. It's possible.
Because that would change my pick. But as of right now, I'm very sorry to my co-host. I'm whether or not CJ Stroud plays. In fact, I don't know. He probably will play, but I'm just assuming that Juan will do something to address the quarterback position.
Well, yeah.
I think that's the one major advantage. Even if Stroud plays, I still think Stafford is a better play. Like you said, I just think Juan's team is better and has had some players coming on a little bit more lately. This is the highest spread of the week. I think your chance to avoid the sack comes in the next round. I think Juan takes you.
Fair enough. I might. It's going to depend. If Alex Madison is out, I think I'm playing Ty Chandler over McBride.
And that would change things because I think Ty Chandler would be a pretty smash start in that scenario. And it would also open up the roster for you to add Tommy to take your team out of shit contention. And you would need to come up with some sort of cutlets pun. But there you have it, folks. There you have the 4 matchups. Good luck to everyone, not named Kaysen. And yeah, any parting words for the boyos here?
Not really. Good luck, I guess, in round 1. Enjoy your bye if you have it.
Yeah, if we didn't talk about your team, that means you don't have to sweat out fantasy football like the rest of us. So, suck it.
All right, y'all. We've been in front of this computer screens for a long time.
Oh, my God.
Time for bed.
It's unreal. I'm dying.
All right.
Catch y'all on the flip-flop.
Later, y'all.